homeless.
Yeah, like, definitely.
Well, wait, he stays with me too now. So.
Her place is way nicer though.
Yeah. He's got like Xbox and I'm allowed to
smoke there, man.
All right, let's talk about the use of the N-word by white people, because that was also an issue.
The funniest part was when we first shot that pilot, like standards and practice. Standards and practices was like you gotta bleep all the N-words, except for the one the white guy says because it's part of the story. So like seeing it, it was like so great. We thought, I was like, that's almost so hilarious. We almost have to do that because that's fucking crazy. But like I think the point, me and Hero always kind of talked about we wanted to make a show that was punk. Like, I wanted to make a punk show. Like, I didn't want to make something where you're not allowed. It felt like you weren't really supposed to be seeing it on TV. Like, I felt like when I watched the Chappelle Show when I was a kid, like, I was like, oh, I'm not supposed to be watching it. Like, it felt bad. And I felt like if you're gonna do that and we're gonna really tell the real stories, or just feel like real stories, it's gotta feel real. Like, and like sometimes they're like, we don't like to blur out things or something, but I'm like, no, the blurs make it feel like I'm not supposed to see this, like, or like this is like too real. Because I've always felt like our show is like, our biggest fight is against the internet. Like, it's very easy for a 13-year-old to see some fucked up shit right now. Like you can watch 30-second fights. I watch that shit all the time, and it's like just seeing people get shot and beat up every day, 5 times a day. Like every day I'm seeing a high school student getting like some rough shit, and I'm like, if you're on TV being like no N-words, I'm like, well, where is this place? Like where people don't, like what universe is that? Like I don't relate with that because it feels already fake to me. So like I felt like I never really felt like I had to defend it because I was like, that's how I talk. That's how like a lot of people I know talk. Like, so let's just keep it 100.
Has a white person ever used the N-word in front of any of you?
I mean, yeah.
Is it important?
All of us, like, yeah.
Is it important? Do you check them or do you do?
Well, that's I think what's interesting about the show is like depending on when and where and who you are.
I find it very funny how unapologetically it's used though. Like I'm more insulted when you fist bump me without asking. You know what I mean? Like, it's just like why is that the connection? Why is that the thread that we have? However, you know, I find that, you know, I had a friend once who was like, I don't really call you Black or African American. I'm like, well, why don't you ask me? Like, why don't we just talk about it? Like, what is the problem? So, you know, like, so it's just weird that these things are passed about.
I didn't feel like.
Sorry for my white girl. I make every white girl sound.
I love your white girl.
We got
No, like, I think like that in that first episode, like I remember with the like in the writers' room, like we always joked about like who was gonna like the episode or who's gonna like Atlanta in general. So I was like, you know, I was like, well, let's read about what people say about me. And then I remember reading something that was like, oh, Donald Glover seems like the type of black dude who let white people say nigga in front of him. I was like, let's do that shit. I was like, let's fucking do that shit. Yeah, like, because like I'm like, there are black people like that. Like why pretend like there's not a million types of black people in like situations like I know there's some black people in here who've had to like swallow it at like a certain point where you're like, this is bad for my career, or like this is bad for like this situation. Other black people that like in that episode you probably saw Alfred and was like, I don't think he's worried about me, like his career, he knocks me out. Like that's the thing, is like as much as like we've come along, like white people have come along, everybody's like moving along. It's like, I feel like I can comfortably say this around these people or like around this, or like, you know what I mean? But it's like the dichotomy, what's happening is like always changing, and like who you say it around and what it is, like that's always evolving. Like I don't think there's an easy answer, and I don't think like there's like this straight line where it's like these people say it, these people, I think it's just it's just an interesting thing that's happening, and like you can't. There's no police. There's no N-word police
Right.
keeping the peace, unfortunately. But like, I mean, but people. That's the thing is like, I'm sure, like the people who have said it around me don't say it in front of like, I'm sure they don't. Like, and I think they know why. And so like, I wanted to explore that. But I'm sure that's how people.
Oh, yeah. Now there's the media and critics, and then there's Twitter, and then there's the streets. Who do we pay attention to as far as our music, our craft, our acting? What do you think is the most honest thing to listen? Because I know sometimes Twitter gets a little crazy, a little rough. Sometimes critics just don't get it. And then with music like Paperboy makes, it's important in the streets.
That's a good question.
It's a triple down theory, right? I mean, just being here watching this with you all, like it released something new that I didn't know was in the show, to see how everyone's interpreted it and felt about it. Like
Yeah.
I was like, first of all, God bless being black, because I was like, we will not lie to you if we don't like anything. If they don't like it, we will let you know.
Right.
And I was just like sitting there, and just like the things that just like the nuances, like everyone got it. Like that's what we do as a people. That's how we connect. It's like if there's something on that screen that we don't like, we gonna let you know.
Right.
And I feel like if you want to consider that the streets, I would say that that's the best place to go, because the people, we won't lie to you if we don't really feel it. If we're not feeling that it connects to us, if we're not feeling that it's for us, if we're not feeling that it's top, we will let you know. And I think that's the most reliable thing, is the people, because that's just what, I don't know, we're just really good at being truthful. Like, come from black shit, we're good at it. Like, wait, don't take that. That's, you know what I mean? So it's like, I feel that the streets influences Twitter, and Twitter influences critics. So I guess it all starts in this weird, like.
It's all kind of, I don't know. I guess it's like almost the same. Like, you were gonna say something. I felt like you were.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, because we were talking backstage when we left the screening about how, like, watching it on my own, I'd only seen the pilot, and like I was so much like calmer and just like, okay, that's funny. But then like seeing like people like cracking up, dying, I was like, oh shit, like okay, like it's good, alright. And it kind of like got me hyped and like.
None of us have seen it with the audience. So
No,
this is the
this
first
is the
time.
first
we've
time.
seen it. Appreciate like you guys coming out and seeing it for this. I think I don't know, like I think that's a really good question. Like Twitter is really people just wanting to be heard, I feel like.
And sometimes just be funny.
It's just funny. Like that's the thing is like Twitter, if you're on Twitter, you have a brand. Like that's the thing is like if you're on Twitter and you're constantly like saying something about Drake, like if something happens with Drake, like it's your job to say something. It's not like you're like, I'm tired today. Like, no, you have to. So like the Twitter's always gonna be like a point of view. I feel like the streets is like it's different. Like when you walk around and you actually meet people and they stop you on the street and they tell you like how you've affected them. Like, that's really the streets to me, like where it's like normal everyday people are like, they're not just asking to take a picture with you, or like they're just like they're like literally being like, yo, this shit's gonna, I fuck with that thing. That shit, like it's like, oh, that changed my life, or like that made, oh, I feel so much better when I saw, like that's real. Twitter's like just really a mouthpiece.
I
And,
never
like,
believe critics. That's
yeah,
like,
critics
fuck
are like
Rotten
critics.
Tomatoes, like no.
Well, I thought for a long time that Black Twitter was just a separate Twitter, because I wanted that. So I was like, I'm not joining Twitter. Where's Black Twitter at? I hope so. I think we need Black Twitter. Yes, like, get off the real But I mean, I was just like, it's the most creative thing I've ever seen. I was like, this makes me feel like I have a place to go. But Twitter terrifies me, because it's like, things are so accessible so quick, and but I mean, it keeps it real.
Like I mean, a critic, I don't really like critics. It's all like I said, like everybody has a brand.
Right.
It's like a perspective. So like it's like if somebody's doing that, you have to really figure out like honestly where their money's coming from. Like it's like where's like what why are they doing it?
Which is something Paperboy is gonna have to deal with in upcoming episodes.
Episode where
Yeah, boy goes through it.
Now, were there some things that were so edgy or just you had to cut out of these first couple of episodes because you felt like, I don't know if we can go there?
No.
Nah.
I don't think there was anything like that. Like the FX has been really great with like us being like, we want to do this, and they've been like, okay, like, okay, like there was one scene that it was funny because like there's one scene later on where like we're in a strip club and they had to like blur some stuff, and they were like, could you cut it so that the blurs aren't in it because the blurs are distracting, and I really liked leaving the blurs in. Like it's sort of like the parental advisory sticker where you're kind of letting people know like, yeah, this was too much for TV, which I fuck with. Like I'd rather have that and have people be like, damn, like I want to, like that feels too real, or then cut around it. Like, but they've been really great about, you know, hopefully we'll have like versions that were like unedited and completely. But like I tried to do it like completely plumper. Like, you know, every time like we wondered if it was gonna be like too much, I was like, would NWA be like, is that
This
too
is too
much?
much.
Like, if it felt real, then we kind of did it. Yeah.
All right, well, we have time for some audience questions now, so if anybody wants to ask any questions, now is the time. And I know it starts September 6th, just so you guys know, mark it on your calendar. A lot of times everybody was laughing, so we might not have heard the next couple of lines, so you know you gotta watch it again. Again. All right, so if you have a question, just stand up.
Hey, quick question about the cinematographical direction that you went in. It really seemed more of like a drama, but it was a comedy. It was written like a comedy. Can you talk about how it was shot and why you were always perfectly in frame and the way the scene was constructed? How did you come to that direction in order to give us a letter?
I really like City of God. Like that's one of my favorites. So it's like no, but I really like that movie because like I was like, that's
hardest, like
that's the
movie is
well, I fuck with that movie because like it's beautiful, but also like nothing but brown people, and no one's ever like, that's a good black movie. Like I feel like I just like how that movie just the world felt very bright, vibrant, and like beautiful, and like it allowed you, even the parts that didn't feel realistic, because it was shot that way, it let you in on it. Like it's really easy to shoot things and have them be beautiful right now. Like it's not hard. Like from phones to like cameras, like everything looks really good. So we felt like, how do we make this feel like not like television? We make this feel like and like the DP Christian Springer, like we really talked about it, and I was like, I was like, I don't want. I was like, I don't want this to feel like hokey on any level. I want people to feel like they're actually there all the time. Like I wouldn't wear makeup like to like pat down because I wanted like my skin to shine. So like
all the sweat you see on my face.
Yeah, like that. It was like real. We talked about it.
I love it.
We talked about it for like a while. So like it was just, and I felt like I had never seen a comedy that way, and I was like, most of this isn't going to be the comedy people expect anyway. So the comedy's going to come from like the weird situations, and these are the weird situations. It would be funny if they feel real. So let's shoot it as real as possible.
Okay. Thank you.
Alright, thanks. Well, first, Donald wanted to actually give you this.
Oh.
You don't.
Presents.
Yeah, go ahead.
Wow, thank you.
Yeah. And
You can ask your question. I'm just gonna shut
and the question I had, so when I think about like Atlanta and how Atlanta is represented in media, a lot I think about is what Big Crit often talks about, where you see like people only want to pick up on the stereotypes that you see in Atlanta. And Hearn really plays like what's the word, like antithesis to that? Yeah. That shit.
I know words.
Yeah, I know. Ern really plays the that word to that Atlanta stereotype, and I'm wondering, did you actually like think about that Atlanta stereotype and the way it's depicted in media when you were writing it?
Well, I kind of want to ask Zazie this, because like Zazie's not from Atlanta, and she's never really been there. The first time she's been there was like when we were filming. Like, what flavor, like what types of people did you see?
Honestly, I was just asked this question earlier today.
Oh.
I was like, I think like calling it kind of like the Black Mecca is such a beautiful thing of like so many different kinds of brown people exist there.
Right.
And I feel like that is not shown anywhere. Like I feel like I remember really feeling like, oh my gosh, there are all kinds of people, which is also what I think the show kind of does in a way, is sort of showcase that there are all different kinds of people of color that exist, and not just this sort of one stereotype that you see over and over and over again. And like,
Where are you from?
I'm from New York.
All right.
Like even like the neighborhood I lived in had a lot of like black punk going on. And I was like,
Yeah.
yes, and I like just
Like
bought some
in
black
St.
lipstick
Pete,
yesterday.
stuff like-
Like,
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah,
And,
I just like, I asked that because like, I don't think like, it wasn't like Ern is like the weird one out there. Like, there's a ton of Erns. Like, my little brother is an Ern. Like there's a ton like of that. It's just that why would Lil Jon sell that? Like, he's like, why? Like, no one wants to and like just
And that was a costume.
yeah.
And I was like, wait, that's like Lil Jon. Like I didn't know that was a costume.
That's a costume. Like that's like he doesn't walk around like that's
Walk
what I'm
around
saying.
like
Like Atlanta has stereotypes and they're interesting to people. Like people are still interested in the trap.
But even also people were always so shocked to meet Brian. I remember at the TCAs they were like, wait, you don't actually talk like
There's
that?
nothing better than having a journalist come up to me and say, "Oh my God, you speak so well." Like yes, I have a degree from Yale. You're welcome. See? So it's very interesting to watch people. I'm an actor. I should be able to do, it's not that big of a deal.
But the funny thing is like most of the time it's like they're disappointed.
You know what I'm saying?
They're disappointed. They're like, I thought I was gonna be this
Or something.
but what I guess I'm just the quick way of answering that is like there is like is somebody sleeping?
I was amazing. And you were trying not to be
I know.
always amazing.
I thought it was like being a mouse. Not like Ern. The reason I chose like Ern is because like there's a bajillion Erns. Like there's a bajillion of those. There's a bajillion of every type of person. Like I felt like I chose those three characters because like they were represented every type. Not every type, but like they represented just regular people. Like we based it off of our friends. Like and I was like me and Steven, like that's the thing. Like you can ask Steven. It's like that Ern was me, yes, like at the time, and like Steven is I guess probably more like Darius. And
Y'all
like,
from Atlanta.
We're all from Atlanta. We all hang out. We all like, and it's like yeah. I don't think a lot of people understand, which I think is important. Like understand how like someone like Donald Glover is friends with a drug dealer. Like I don't, and that's really what I was trying to get at. Is like it just happens. It's not like crazy at all. Like it's not weird. Like and I didn't choose like Ern to be like like the Blipster archetype. Like I was like I just wanted him to be like a regular dude and like you understand that like yeah like this regular dude is kind of an asshole sometimes and also like yeah like he does like no one's right. And I felt like that's just more interesting. Like the stereotypes that Big Crit is talking about come up because they're interesting. like, and they're easy to do, and like, they're easy to make Vice articles about. Like, nobody wants to write a Vice article about me, because I'm super boring most of the time. Like I'm just like, I like doing these kind of things. Like, the stereotypes are interesting, like, you know, that's it.
Oh, hello, right here.
Hi.
Hi. Two questions, kind of. First, is there a Paperboy album attached to this? The song is still in my head, but is there music that's attached to it that we can access, or is it just?
Not yet. Like, I was like very weary of doing that just because everybody does that. It seems like a way to like sell stuff. And I want, and it's so hard to like, people will just buy a soundtrack, but like we made songs, and like with the Paperboy songs, like obviously made. I just want to release it in like the coolest way, and also like have it live up to it, because like most of the time that stuff doesn't live up to it, and I just like want it to be like something cool where people to be like, oh shit, this is tight. I actually want to listen to this, as opposed to it being like a novelty project.
And a music video.